Good evening and welcome back. If you are listening from a quiet corner of the world, perhaps beside a softly fading hearth or within the deep stillness of a bedroom, please allow my voice to be a gentle guide tonight. We will not rush this journey. There is no urgency in the story we are about to share. Find your most restful position, allow your shoulders to soften and your breath to gently deepen. Let the sounds outside the distant world, the worries of the day, all of it become a soft, low hum far away. Tonight, there is nothing for you to solve, nothing to resist. Simply allow your mind to drift back through time, tracing the origin of our simplest tools, the pencil and the paper. We are following the earliest soft traces of human thought, captured on the quiet surface of the world. My voice will be your soft anchor tonight, guiding you along the smooth, ancient rivers of time, where only the memory of creation remains. Nothing in tonight's story will disturb your peace. Welcome this evening stillness, this gentle moment where the day gives way to the deep, slow quiet of the night. Feel the gentle weight of the air around you, soft and unmoving, like silk draped across the horizon. With a long, soft breath, allow the rhythm of the evening to settle into the rhythm of your body. Let your breath become as quiet as the falling dusk, slow and deep, filling you with calm and releasing any lingering tension with the faintest whisper of air. Imagine yourself standing at the entrance to an ancient, echoing hall illuminated by a single lantern glow. Before you, a faint straight line disappears into the mist, an ancient myth-like cadence of intention. We are about to begin the deep history of the mark, the gentle language that predates the word. If these gentle journeys help you rest, you may leave a soft like or subscribe, only if it feels comforting and natural for your night. The story of the pencil, our soft tool of quiet creation, begins not with wood or graphite, but with the whisper of charcoal. It starts in the deepest past, where the only writing surfaces were rough rock walls, and the only marking tool was the residue of fire. Charcoal is the simplest of recording instruments, born from the patient destruction of wood. When wood burns, slowly starved of air, it leaves behind pure black carbon, a material that is incredibly soft light, and ready to leave its gentle trace on any opposing surface. This earliest form of mark making was deeply connected to the low embers and the comforting warmth of the fire. Imagine a scene many millennia ago, so the distant night presses close, illuminated only by the flicker of a fire in a deep cave. A person reaches into the quiet ashes, selecting a piece of wood that has been perfectly transformed, dark, fragile, and clean. This piece of charcoal is held lightly, and with a soft, steady movement, it is applied to the cool, quiet stone of the cave wall. The resulting line is not harsh or aggressive. It is powdery, easily smudged, and beautifully, profoundly temporary. It is the softest mark possible, a fragile shadow that records a thought, a ritual, or a vision captured in the pale light of the fire. This mark-making was a quiet contemplative act, conducted in the deep safety of the cavern. This early charcoal was used for generations, moving from cave walls to smooth fragments of bone or pottery. It taught humanity the first fundamental lesson of drawing and writing, that a dark material, when moved with gentle footsteps across a light surface, can hold an idea still. As civilizations developed, the process of preparing charcoal became more refined, yet maintained its simplicity. Special woods like willow or vine were selected for their fine grain. These were bundled tightly and placed inside sealed kilns or clay vessels where they were allowed to smolder without oxygen for many days. This slow, patient baking created charcoal that was uniform, pure, and incredibly soft, ready to yield its dark pigment with the slightest pressure. The feeling of charcoal in the hand is one of utter lightness. It demands a soft grip and a slow, fluid motion. It is the opposite of tension. It is a tool that requires the artist's warm breath to settle to ensure the resulting line is not fractured. It is a tool for quiet planning, for the initial sketch, where ideas are still misty and easily changed. The whisper of charcoal is the ancient root of the modern pencil. It established the core concept, a dark carbon source held by the hand, transferring thought to a lighter background. This soft trace born of fire and patience is the origin of all the gentle stories that would later fill the vast, white spaces of the world. If the pencil begins with the black whisper of charcoal, now the other half of our story, the surface upon which the mark rests, begins with the gentle unfurling of fibers in ancient China. Paper in its earliest and most delicate form is a material of profound simplicity, representing a long, quiet transition from clumsy record-keeping to light, graceful thought. For centuries before, paper ideas were heavy. They were carved into quiet stone, etched onto bamboo slips that rattled heavily in a scholar's bag, or written onto costly pieces of silk. These surfaces were sturdy, but they were restrictive, demanding great effort for both creation and transport. The dream of paper was the dream of making thought light and abundant. The soft genesis of true paper occurred in China, stemming from a patient observation of the natural world. It began with the realization that plant fibers, even those discarded and seemingly useless, could be coaxed through the gentle action of water and slow pounding to rearrange themselves into a thin, unified sheet. Imagine the early papermakers working beside a slow river, surrounded by baskets of plant waste, hemp scraps, old fishing nets, and the fibrous bark of the mulberry tree. Their work was rhythmic and deeply contemplative. The materials were first softened by soaking for many days, allowing the fibers to relax and break down. Then they were gently pounded with wooden mallets, a sound of low, steady percussion that defined the process. This quiet pounding transformed the stiff plant material into a soft, mushy pulp, a cloud of loose, relaxed fibers suspended in water. This pulp was the raw, nascent form of paper. The true moment of creation came with the simple action of the screen. A fine mesh screen, often woven from bamboo, was dipped into the watery pulp. When slowly and steadily lifted, the water drifted light through the mesh, leaving behind a thin, even layer of tangled, intertwined fibers resting on the surface. This was the moment the pulp transformed into a sheet of potential. The wet sheet was then delicately peeled off the screen and pressed to remove the remaining moisture, often piled high under quiet stone weights. Finally, the sheets were separated and left to dry in the soft wind and the sun, achieving the final state of lightness and readiness. The resulting paper was thin, slightly translucent, and possessed a beautiful, gentle texture. It was a surface ready to receive ink or pigment with grace, without the sharp resistance of bamboo or the oily drag of silk. It was a revolution not of speed, but of ease and accessibility. Thought became light enough to carry in vast quantities, transforming the silent work of bureaucracy, philosophy, and art. This slow, patient process of transforming humble fibers into a vast white canvas is the ancient root of paper's enduring calm. It is a story of unhurried formation, where the softness of water and the patience of the human hand collaborated to create a material that would carry the quiet burden of civilization for thousands of years. The initial unfurling in China set the gentle standard for lightness, flexibility, and the profound serenity of the blank page. Before the soft innovation of true paper in the East, the ancient world had already discovered a method for creating a light, flexible surface for writing the slow river of papyrus. This early form of paper was born not from pounded scraps, but from the tall, silent reeds that grew abundantly along the banks of the Nile, basking under the steady, warm Egyptian sun. Papyrus, though fundamentally different in its creation process, from true paper shared the same gentle goal: to replace the heavy weight of stone tablets with a surface that could be rolled, transported, and stored with ease. It was the first widely accessible surface designed for the flow of continuous thought. Imagine the banks of the Nile, where the air is warm and still, and the water moves with a slow, steady current. Here grew the papyrus plant, a reed, with a tall, dense stalk. The harvesters worked quietly, cutting the stalks and bringing them to the workshops where the patient process of transformation began. The outer rind of the stalk was discarded, and the inner pith was carefully sliced into long, thin strips. This slicing required a rhythmic, precise movement of the knife, ensuring each strip was uniform and smooth. The pith itself was soaked in water for several days, a period of quiet immersion that softened the fibers and leached out the natural sugars. The genius of papyrus lay in its assembly. The soft, wet strips were laid side by side, slightly overlapping on a damp cloth. Then, a second layer of strips was placed on top, but at a precise right angle to the first. This cross-hatching created a simple two-dimensional matrix, the basic framework of the future sheet. Once the fibers were aligned, the sheet was gently pressed. The pressure often applied by quiet stone weights or a simple heavy press was the key. As the pressure increased, the natural sticky sap within the papyrus strips was released. This sap, a natural adhesive, bonded the fibers together as the sheet dried. There was no need for pounding or pulp. The plant simply adhered to itself, a beautiful example of nature, providing its own soft connection. The resulting sheet, when smoothed and polished with a round stone or shell, was light pale and ready to receive ink. Because of its fibrous nature, it often maintained a subtle, slightly ridged texture, which provided a calming tactile feedback for the reed pen as it moved with gentle footsteps across the surface. The papyrus sheet was often joined edge to form long, continuous scrolls, which were stored rolled and tied. This form was the perfect container for long narratives, allowing ancient stories and knowledge to flow like a slow river through time. When unrolled, the scroll would unfurl softly, presenting its surface to the lantern glow for quiet study. The slow river of papyrus represents one of the earliest successful attempts to create a light, flexible surface for the human mind. It set a precedent for the gentle handling of information and established the deep connection between reed and surface. A quiet, enduring partnership that preceded the pencil and paper by thousands of years. Its presence under the Egyptian sun ensured that thought could travel lightly across the ancient dust. Moving through the ancient history of surfaces, we encounter another early quiet rival to the reed paper of the Nile vellum and parchment. These surfaces, derived from carefully prepared animal skins, brought a unique quality to the act of writing, a profound durability and a soft, pale texture that allowed ink to rest and endure through long centuries. The creation of vellum was a slow, labor-intensive process, demanding immense patience and gentle handling, which contributed to its high value and its deep connection to the preservation of profound, slow-moving thought. Imagine the preparation process carried out in quiet, dedicated workshops. The animal skins were first cleaned and soaked for many days in a lime solution, a period of patient immersion that stripped away any excess material and softened the inherent stiffness of the hide. This stage was critical, ensuring the final product would be thin, flexible, and perfectly receptive to the pen. The skin was then carefully stretched upon a wooden frame or hearse and held taut with precise tension. This stretching was a delicate operation. Too much strain could tear the surface, while too little would result in wrinkles. The makers moved with gentle footsteps, constantly adjusting the tension until the skin lay perfectly flat and smooth, like a sheet of silk stretched over air. While stretched, the skin was scraped with a curved blade called a lunellum. This scraping was the most rhythmic and meditative part of the entire process. The artisan moved the blade back and forth with a soft, steady motion, thinning the skin to an even beautiful thickness. The sound in the workshop was only the soft wind moving through the open windows and the gentle scrape of the blade against the damp skin, a sound of continuous, low-drama refinement. The resulting surface, known as vellum from calfskin or parchment from sheep or goat skin, was pale smooth and immensely strong. It possessed a velvety texture that invited the pen, providing a slight, satisfying resistance that made the act of writing a slow, deliberate pleasure, unlike papyrus, which was fragile and cracked when folded vellum was durable enough to be bound into books, codices protecting the knowledge within its quiet embrace. Vellum's durability meant it became the preferred surface for recording the most important and eternal texts, legal charters, sacred scripts, and the lasting philosophies of the age. It was a material chosen for its ability to carry knowledge through the slow tides of history, often surviving fires and neglect that would destroy less resilient surfaces. The surface of vellum, even after preparation, retained a subtle difference between the hair side, slightly rougher, and the flesh side, smoother and paler. These quiet distinctions often guided the scribe's hand, establishing a gentle rhythm of writing, where smoother pages alternated with slightly textured ones. The long, careful preparation of vellum imbues it with a sense of deep patience. It is the memory of centuries of soft scraping and deliberate stretching a surface that was never hurried into being. Vellum's legacy is a quiet reminder that the most durable creations often require the most gentle, methodical handling, offering a smooth, eternal canvas for the thoughts that must never be allowed to fade. We now turn fully to the essential heart of the modern pencil, the marking substance itself. The final crucial moment in the origins of the pencil was the accidental discovery of a soft black mineral that seemed to embody the gentle power of the earth, a material known as plumbago, which we now call graphite. This discovery occurred in the deepest stillness of the English Lake District, in a small misty village called Borrowdale, around the year 1564. It was not a violent event or a planned scientific pursuit. It was an accidental revelation, a black earth's gentle gift revealed after a severe soft wind had uprooted an old tree. Imagine the scene: a quiet mining valley, where farmers were moving through the aftermath of the storm. When the tree's massive roots were pulled from the soil, they exposed a strange, dark, smooth substance, unlike anything seen before. It looked like coal, yet it was surprisingly soft to the touch, and left a thick, dark, easily smudged trace on anything it brushed against. Initially, the locals believed it to be a form of lead, calling it plumbago, from the Latin for lead. This misnomer would cling to the pencil for centuries, even though the material contained no lead metal at all. It was in fact pure carbon, the same element found in charcoal and diamonds, but arranged in delicate, slippery layers. This unique structure made it incredibly soft and ready to glide. The first practical use was entirely gentle and practical. The farmers discovered they could use lumps of this black earth to softly mark their sheep. The dark trace was easy to see against the white fleece, allowing them to keep their flock organized with simple, efficient precision. This humble pastoral use was the true beginning of the pencil's long story. As the uniqueness of the material became clear, its use spread beyond the quiet fields. Because the plumbago was so incredibly pure and soft, it was soon cut into small, usable sticks. However, it was also very brittle and left its mark too easily on the fingers. To make these sticks manageable, early users simply wrapped them in soft string or sheepskin, creating the first portable protected marking tool. This material was a revolution because it combined the dark clarity of charcoal with a cleaner permanence. Unlike charcoal, its trace was more fixed and less prone to powdering off the surface completely. It allowed for fine, detailed work that the rough charcoal sticks could not achieve, opening new avenues for artists, designers, and quiet thinkers. The mine in Borrowdale became the world's sole source of this high-quality pure graphite for nearly 2 centuries, making the material immensely valuable. This rarity led to the first organized efforts to protect the material, sometimes even requiring armed guards for its transport. Yet the graphite itself remained a symbol of gentle utility, a dark mineral that asked only to be wrapped and guided, ready to yield its soft, indelible line. The discovery of plumbago was the final piece needed to elevate mark-making from the realm of fire and charcoal to the organized simplicity of the pencil. It was the moment the black earth's gentle gift was quietly offered to the world, waiting for the wood casing to complete its destiny. We now drift into the second layer of our quiet history, the formation of the simple tool we know as the pencil. Once the wondrous black mineral plumbago or graphite was discovered in the black earth of Borrowdale, the next gentle challenge was finding a way to hold and control its soft yielding power. The initial methods were born of necessity and simplicity, embracing materials that were already quiet and abundant. The graphite sticks, being naturally brittle and prone to soiling the hands, needed a protective sleeve to be truly useful. Imagine the earliest users, farmers, artisans, and perhaps quiet thinkers, adapting what was readily available. The very first holders were likely just soft rope or pieces of twine. A length of graphite would be carefully wrapped with cord starting from one end and moving toward the point. This wrapping was tight enough to hold the fragile stick together, yet flexible enough to be gently peeled back as the marking tip wore down. This simple method turned the brittle mineral into a stable, manageable rod. The feeling of the rope-wrapped stick in the hand was one of natural warmth and comforting texture. It lacked the smooth precision of the finished pencil, but it carried the spirit of the tool, a dark point cradled in a soft, woven embrace. As the graphite became more highly prized and its use spread, the holders became more refined, moving toward the ultimate form of the pencil. The next gentle step was the introduction of wooden sleeves. This was not the final pencil casing we know today, but rather two matching carved halves of wood. Picture an artisan working with a fine piece of cedar or pine. The wood was split precisely down the middle. A groove was patiently carved into the inner face of one half a smooth channel, designed to cradle the graphite stick perfectly. The soft graphite was then laid into this groove, and the second piece of wood was placed over it, creating a perfect protective sandwich. The two wooden halves were then carefully glued or tied together. This early wooden sleeve was the moment the pencil began to take its recognizable shape. It was a fusion of the durable, protective qualities of wood with the soft, yielding nature of the graphite core. The wood provided the necessary structure and stability, allowing the user to grip the tool firmly without fear of breakage, while still allowing the graphite to protrude gently at one end for marking. The use of wooden sleeves was a triumph of quiet engineering. It solved the problem of brittleness without introducing complexity. It was a design for low-drama utility, ensuring that the act of writing could be performed with predictable ease. The wood not only protected the core, but also kept the hands clean, removing the friction and distraction that the pure graphite sticks had caused. The process of sharpening these early wooden-sleeved pencils was a slow, contemplative ritual. It required a small, sharp knife and a careful, rhythmic scraping motion, exposing the dark, smooth point just enough for the next phase of work. This quiet act of preparation became deeply linked to the process of creation itself. This formation stage, moving from soft rope to wooden sleeves, defined the essential relationship that endures today. The dark, ephemeral marking agent, protected by the pale, lasting strength of wood. It was the moment that the pencil found its quiet, stable form, ready to carry the soft echo of the mind onto the page. While the West was slowly discovering how to contain the black earth of graphite, the other half of our story paper was being quietly perfected in the East. This crucial step in the formation of modern paper is often attributed to a court official named Tsai Lun in China around 105 CE. His contribution was not a sudden, loud invention, but a gentle, systematic refinement, the peaceful blending of soft fiber to create an affordable, superior surface. Before Tsai Lun's, surfaces like silk and early forms of papyrus were either too costly or too coarse for widespread use. The dream of paper light, smooth and easily available, remained out of reach for the common scholar or administrator. Tsai Lun's genius lay in his meticulous, unhurried investigation into materials that were abundant and often considered waste. Imagine him in his quiet workshop, surrounded by humble materials, old rags, hemp scraps, fish nets, and the bark of the mulberry tree. He understood that the secret to the perfect writing surface lay in the patience of the process and the quality of the raw fibers. He sought a material that, when dissolved and reformed, would create a sheet of uniform strength and soft texture. His innovation was the careful blending of these different fibers. He discovered that mixing tougher long fibers like hemp with softer shorter fibers like rag scraps and the resilient pulp of tree bark created a synergy. When pounded with the rhythmic, slow percussion of the water-powered trip hammer, the fibers interlocked with greater tenacity, forming a stronger, yet more flexible and lighter sheet. The process he refined was a long, ritualistic collaboration with water. The raw materials were soaked in large vats until they became soft and relaxed. They were then boiled for long periods until they achieved a perfect state of fiber readiness. The final pulp was suspended in water, and the sheet was pulled using a fine, flexible mesh screen, the process known as sheet formation. The sheets were then gently pressed to remove the water, often by a simple screw press or by layers of cloth and quiet stone weights. The sound in these early paper mills was one of profound calm. The soft wind moving through the drying rooms, the distant thump of the pounding mallets, and the continuous slow flow of water from the nearby stream. Tsai Lun's refinement was a turning point because it dramatically reduced the cost of the writing surface. Suddenly, thought became democratized. Government offices could keep detailed lightweight records, scholars could write and exchange ideas freely, and the quiet work of learning was no longer restricted by the cost of silk or vellum. This abundance of the blank page was a peaceful revolution. The resulting paper had a beautiful soft texture, ready to receive the gentle trace of the brush or pen. It was porous enough to absorb ink without smudging, yet dense enough to hold its form. The paper, born from the patient blending of soft fiber, became the perfect serene counterpoint to the dark, emerging power of graphite. The quiet innovation of Tsai Lun provided the perfect canvas, ready to wait for centuries for the humble pencil to complete its journey from a wrapped stick of black earth to the final wooden tool of gentle creation. Once perfected in the quiet workshops of China, the innovation of paper began its long, unhurried journey westward. This was not a hurried dash, but a slow, peaceful spread across the vast continent, following the gentle flow of commerce and ideas along the ancient Silk roads. The movement of paper was the movement of lightness, gradually replacing the heavier surfaces of the past. Imagine the paper traveling not in vast quantities, but in carefully guarded bundles tucked into the packs of patient merchants. The journey was long and measured, defined by the slow pace of camels and the rhythmic, gentle footsteps of travelers. Each stop along the route, the quiet oases, the bustling markets of Samarkand, the ancient cities of Persia, served as a new point of diffusion for the quiet technology. The initial transfer of the paper-making secret was less about trade and more about a soft historical shift. According to distant echoes, the secret was first carried out of China in the 8th century CE. Following a gentle conflict where Chinese papermakers were quietly absorbed into the new territories. These skilled artisans brought with them their knowledge of fiber, blending the screens, and the meticulous process of pulp preparation. Once established in the Islamic world in cities like Baghdad and Damascus, papermaking underwent its own period of calm refinement. The process was adapted to the local materials. Instead of mulberry bark, the artisans found that hemp and linen rags provided excellent strong fibers. This shift was a quiet testament to the adaptability of the core technique, relying on the abundant soft presence of textile scraps. The paper mills that arose were places of profound calm and continuous rhythm. They were often built beside slow rivers powered by water wheels that drove the heavy stampers used to pound the fibers. The soundscape would have been dominated by the steady, hypnotic thump, thump, thump of the stamps, a sound of organized low-drama production that continued through the distant night. Paper's influence in the Middle East was immense. It replaced the brittle papyrus and the costly vellum, allowing for an explosion of scholarship and record-keeping. Vast libraries were built, not on the fragile weight of scrolls, but on the organized lightness of bound books. The wide availability of this smooth, pale surface encouraged the flourishing of mathematics, astronomy, and beautiful, flowing calligraphy. The gentle journey continued, moving slowly across North Africa and eventually entering Europe via Spain. The technology arrived in a time when the West was still heavily reliant on the thick, expensive vellum. The lightness and affordability of paper were immediately recognized as an inevitable force for change, a quiet innovation destined to overcome the resistance of tradition. This slow spread westward, spanning nearly 1,000 years, is the story of a quiet necessity. Paper was not pushed aggressively, it was simply needed. Its soft texture and economic viability ensured that wherever it arrived, it quickly settled in providing a vast white canvas for the expansion of human knowledge. The ancient route of the Silk Roads, once known for spices and silks, became the gentle channel for the transport of the world's most enduring and quiet idea, the blank page. As the secret of papermaking diffused across continents, the scale of production quietly transformed. The slow, individual effort of the artisan gave way to the steady, organized power of the paper mill. This industrial change was not one of speed, but of rhythmic consistency, using the gentle, unhurried force of water to make paper abundant. Imagine a scene nestled beside a slow river in medieval Europe, perhaps in the quiet valleys of Spain or Italy. Here stood the early paper mill, a structure of wood and stone designed to harness the continuous energy of the current. The core of this power was the water wheel turning with a hypnotic slow tide, its motion a calming constant against the backdrop of the soft wind. The water wheel drove a mechanism of heavy wooden hammers or stampers. These stampers rose and fell in a deep, rhythmic motion, pounding the raw materials, mostly linen rags and hemp scraps that were soaking in stone vats. This was the sound of the mill, a low, steady percussion that could be heard for miles, yet was entirely non-aggressive. It was the sound of persistence, the sound of fibers being patiently teased apart. The process of rhythmic pounding was vital. It was a slow, controlled form of mechanical action, transforming the coarse, woven textile scraps into a fine, smooth pulp. This mechanical process replaced the need for long, labor-intensive hand pounding, allowing for much greater quantities of uniform, high-quality fiber to be prepared. The mill was a center of quiet organization, ensuring that the supply of the blank page could meet the growing soft demand of an increasingly literate world. The finished pulp, now a creamy suspension of relaxed fibers, was taken to the vat man who worked in a dim, humid room. This was still the realm of the gentle hand and the ancient dust. The vat man would dip the wire mesh mold, the screen, into the pulp and lift it with a slow, skilled movement, forming the sheet. This moment of sheet formation remained an act of focused calm, a dance between water fiber and human dexterity. Once the sheet was formed, it was gently layered with felt and pressed to remove the water. The pressure applied by a large wooden screw press was slow and immense, ensuring that the fibers bonded tightly. The sound here was minimal, the low creak of the turning screw, and the quiet dripping of water escaping the compressed sheets. The paper mill, therefore, was a structure that married the gentle power of nature, the river, with the organized rhythm of human technology, the stampers. It was an innovation that fundamentally altered the flow of knowledge, making paper an accessible commodity rather than a costly luxury. This vast white canvas was now ready for the gentle trace of the emerging writing tools. The rise of the paper mill was a turning point marked by a quiet increase in abundance, creating the perfect environment for the humble pencil still in its early wooden sleeve to find its true purpose. The mill's rhythmic pounding was an eternal lullaby of production, assuring the world that the surface for thought would never run dry. The sheets of paper newly lifted from the press and dried in the soft wind possessed a beautiful texture, but they were not yet ready for the gentle trace of the pen or the emerging graphite. The paper in its raw state was too porous, like a sponge. It would absorb liquid ink immediately, causing the pigment to bleed and feather uncontrollably. This necessary final step in the formation of the perfect surface was the gentle art of sizing. Sizing is the process of coating the paper with a thin, almost invisible layer that seals the fibers, ensuring that ink rests gracefully on the surface, rather than sinking into the paper's core. This was an operation that required care and precision, turning a piece of fiber into a true writing canvas, a surface prepared for flow. In the early paper mills of Europe, the most common sizing agent was a thin mixture of animal hide glue, sometimes mixed with alum. Imagine the paper being carefully dipped into a warm, shallow vat of this sizing liquid. The process had to be slow and steady. The immersion could not be too long, or the sheet would become too saturated and stiff. The paper was gently passed through the liquid, absorbing just enough to seal the fibers. Once sized, the sheets were once again hung up to dry, often in quiet, airy rooms where the soft wind could circulate evenly. As the size dried, it created an impermeable barrier preserving the surface's delicate texture, while ensuring the ink or graphite would glide across it without resistance. The effect of good sizing was profound. It allowed the pen to move with a smooth, continuous motion, preventing the anxious snagging and feathering that rough paper caused. For the graphite, pencil sizing ensured that the carbon particles, when transferred by gentle footsteps of the hand, would rest sharply on the surface, creating a clear, crisp line that did not blur into the fibers. This gentle art was a matter of quiet, practiced skill. Too much size and the paper would feel slick, resisting the ink entirely. Too little, and the surface would still bleed. The paper maker relied on touch and subtle visual cues, ensuring a perfect balance was achieved. The quality of the size was often a closely guarded secret, distinguishing the best mills and their beautifully prepared surfaces. Sizing added a quality of low-drama predictability to the paper. It guaranteed that the act of writing or drawing would be a calm, fluid experience, free from the stress of an unruly surface. The prepared sheet was now a willing partner to the writing instrument, ready to receive the deepest thought with serene hospitality. This final touch completed the formation of paper as a simple, enduring tool. The ancient dust of the fibers had been gathered, refined, bonded by water, and finally sealed by the size. The paper was ready for its long journey across the world, offering its pale, smooth face to the dark point of the pencil. The stage was set for the harmonious union of the marking agent and the surface, which we will explore next. We now drift into the third layer of our quiet journey. Early journeys were the two separate threads of our story. The black earth of graphite and the soft abundance of paper begin their true, long-lasting partnership. This union was solidified by a German transformation, where the wooden sleeve evolved into the standardized, beautifully finished pencil we recognize today. While the English mine at Borrowdale held the purest, softest graphite, its supply was fiercely guarded and often unpredictable. This scarcity spurred artisans on the continent to find a way to make the marking material go further. The city of Nuremberg, Germany became a quiet, crucial center for this refinement, specializing in enclosing the precious black core. Imagine the workshops in Nuremberg in the late 17th and early 18th centuries. The artisans were not using the pure, unbroken sticks of English graphite, but often smaller, less perfect pieces. Their mastery lay in the gentle shaping of the wood casing to create a uniform, easy-to-hold tool. The pencil makers established a rhythmic, organized process for uniting the graphite with the wood. It was a methodical system that turned the chaotic nature of raw materials into a predictable, durable tool. They began using fine-grained woods like juniper or cedar, chosen for their softness and straight grain, which allowed for smooth, easy sharpening, a key component of the pencil's utility. The most enduring innovation was the method of embedding the graphite core. Instead of simply gluing two carved halves around a stick, the process became one of precision grooving. A long plank of wood was cut with parallel grooves meticulously sized to cradle the graphite rods. The rods were laid in these grooves, and a second plank, perfectly flat, was glued precisely on top. The resulting sandwich was then cut into individual hexagonal or round pencils. This process was a profound victory for low-drama utility. The uniformity achieved by the Nuremberg workshops meant that for the first time, a writer or artist could expect a reliable, consistent tool every time they picked up a pencil. The wooden casing was not just a protector. It was an organized vessel ensuring the smooth flow of the dark core. The pencil, now protected and standardized, was ready for its early journeys beyond the workshop. It became the favored tool for quiet travel, far superior to the messy, complicated inkpot and quill. An explorer could carry it easily on horseback, a surveyor could use it to make gentle traces on rough paper in the soft wind, and a merchant could keep accounts in dimly lit inns, using only the lantern glow. The dark core was now secure, protected from breakage, and its point was ready to meet the newly abundant soft surface of paper from the mills. The German transformation took an expensive, brittle mineral and packaged it in a common, affordable material, making the pencil a tool of universal, quiet accessibility. This pairing of dark graphite and pale wood was a powerful symbol of simplicity and order, ready to travel the world, filling the vast, blank spaces with thought and design. Even as the sturdy wooden pencil found its form in the German workshops, its ancestor, the simple metal stylus, continued to influence the quiet art of drawing. The history of mark-making includes a long, gentle chapter devoted to the metal stylus, a predecessor that left only a pale line, but instilled a profound discipline in the hands of the artist. Imagine a time before the widespread abundance of graphite, when fine silver-tipped instruments were the choice for delicate, contemplative work. This technique, known as silver point, involved drawing with a thin wire of soft metal, often silver or lead alloy, held within a stylus or simple wooden casing. The surface required for this technique was unique. Unlike the paper destined for ink, the silver point surface had to be specially prepared with a coating of bone dust or gesso, a soft, fine grit that was barely visible. This pale, abrasive coating was necessary to gently rub off the soft metal from the tip of the stylus, leaving behind a faint, shimmering trace. The line produced by the metal stylus was incredibly pale and soft, almost like a whisper. It was a pale, silver-gray line that lacked the bold, confident blackness of graphite. This paleness was a reflection of its purpose. It was a medium for quiet planning, for the initial delicate sketching where ideas were still misty and evolving. The light trace discouraged hurried action and demanded immense focus and precision from the artist. One of the most profound characteristics of the silver point stylus was its permanence. Unlike graphite or charcoal, the silver line once laid down could not be erased. This fact enforced a discipline of unhurried thought and absolute certainty. Every mark was a commitment, forcing the artist to slow their pace, hold their warm breath, and consider the flow of every line before it was committed to the surface. It was a practice in finding peace through deliberate, measured action. Over time, the silver line would undergo a subtle, beautiful transformation. The silver metal exposed to the air would slowly oxidize its pale trace, deepening into a warmer, rich sepia tone. This aging process turned the initial pale whisper into a permanent soft echo of the artist's original thought, deepening the connection between the drawing and the passage of time. The simplicity of the tool itself was part of its calm allure. The stylus was often just a thin, straight metal rod, perhaps pointed at one end and slightly blunted at the other, held with a natural, comfortable grip. It was a tool designed for gentle footsteps across the surface, guided by the lantern glow in a quiet workshop or the steady light of the day. Even as the dark, readily erasable graphite pencil became widely available, the legacy of the metal stylus persisted. It taught the later graphite users the value of precision, the beauty of the light preparatory line, and the profound discipline that comes from a tool that resists easy change. The pale line of the stylus remains a symbol of the quiet, beginning a mark that required patience and trust in its own soft, shimmering destiny. As the graphite pencil now encased in its comforting wooden sleeve, and the abundant, softly sized paper began their enduring partnership, they created a new intimate space for quiet thought, the sketchbook. This simple combination of bound pages and portable mark maker transformed the way people engaged with the world, encouraging travel and observation at a gentle, reflective pace. Imagine the scholar, the architect, or the natural philosopher of the 18th century setting out on a journey. In place of heavy scrolls and messy ink pots, they carried a slim, organized volume of paper, the sketchbook, and a few sturdy pencils. This pairing was a victory for low-drama utility. It was clean, immediate, and always ready to capture a fleeting thought or a complex structure. The sketchbook itself became a symbol of quiet contemplation. Its pages were protected by durable covers, and its binding held the paper flat and still ready to receive the gentle trace of the graphite. It invited its user to pause, find a quiet stone or sheltered bench, and slow their breathing to the rhythm of focused observation. The act of opening the book was a silent ritual, a deliberate invitation for the external world to flow inward and be captured. In the soft wind of the countryside or the stillness of a dimly lit library, the pencil was the perfect tool. It required no preparation, no dipping, no blotting, no waiting for ink to dry. It could be held lightly and moved with gentle footsteps across the textured surface of the paper, recording the contours of a distant mountain and the details of a ruin or the delicate structure of a flower. The ability of the pencil to be easily erased was crucial to the quiet world of the sketchbook. It encouraged the user to experiment, to lay down misty, pale lines of initial thought, knowing that these tentative beginnings could be softly released and replaced by clearer intentions. This forgiveness fostered a sense of calm experimentation, removing the anxiety of permanence that the old ink and quill had imposed. The sketchbook was a safe space for ideas to evolve without stress. Travel became a deeper, more personal form of learning. With the sketchbook, the traveler was no longer just a passive observer. They were an active participant in recording their experience. The pencil captured the fleeting moments, the way the drifting light fell upon an ancient column or the precise mechanics of a newly observed machine. These quiet marks stored visual information with an efficiency and detail that words alone could not match. The journey of the sketchbook was aided by the growing abundance and uniformity of paper. The reliable output from the paper mills meant that the sheets were consistent in texture and size, ensuring that the artist's work flowed seamlessly from one page to the next. The pairing was complete, a tool of soft, dark carbon housed in warm wood, meeting a pale, smooth surface prepared to receive its mark with grace. The quiet world of the sketchbook became a gentle, portable library of ideas carried back from distant night and foreign lands. It stands as a testament to the power of simplicity, a peaceful sanctuary where the mind could meet the world and capture its essence one soft, steady line at a time. The quiet, enduring partnership of the pencil and paper was profoundly amplified by a parallel revolution, the printing age. The widespread adoption of the printing press transformed the demand for paper, ensuring its continuous abundance and cementing its role as the vast white canvas of knowledge for centuries to come. Imagine the early printing houses' places of rhythmic, organized activity. The heavy wooden presses applied immense pressure, transferring ink from movable type onto the waiting surface. This mechanical process demanded a writing surface that was not just cheap, but also uniform, stable, and strong. Vellum was too costly and irregular. Early papyrus was too brittle. Only the soft, durable, and abundant rag paper emerging from the water-powered mills could meet this new, quiet demand. The printing process set a new standard for the texture and finish of paper. For the type to register clearly and sharply, the paper needed perfect consistency, free from thick spots or uneven sizing. The printing press was an engine of predictability, and it required its paper to be equally predictable. The ability to quickly and cheaply reproduce texts, transformed the cultural landscape, leading to a massive increase in literacy and the democratization of knowledge. Books, once rare heavy treasures, became commonplace and light enough to carry. The paper, once a mere surface, became the medium of shared thought, its pale sheets carrying the weight of philosophy, science, and history. The printing age also created a vast, low-drama environment for the pencil. The pencil was the tool used to interact with the printed page. Scholars would hold the pencil lightly, using it to make gentle traces in the margins, notes, corrections, or quiet reflections on the printed text. This act of marginalia, the written mark, engaging with the printed word, was a new form of soft dialogue entirely dependent on the easy portability of the pencil and the reliable smoothness of the paper. The pencil, unlike the quill and ink, was perfect for this interaction because it was instantly ready and easily removed. A quick thought could be captured in the margin without the disruption of preparing an ink pot. The erasability of the graphite meant that corrections could be made with a smooth, non-anxious motion, allowing the reader's mind to remain focused on the slow river of the text. The mass production of paper ensured that there was an eternal availability of the blank page, fostering the kind of thinking that relies on continuous drafting and correction. Architects could draw plans, scientists could sketch diagrams, and accountants could record ledgers, all with the quiet assurance that the canvas beneath their pencil point was affordable and endless. The printing press and the paper mill worked in a profound, rhythmic harmony, setting the pace for the expansion of information. The press demanded consistency, and the mill supplied it, ensuring that the soft wind of knowledge could blow freely across vast distances. Paper in this age was no longer a secret or luxury. It was the essential, vast, white canvas upon which modern thought was built, always waiting patiently for the dark, gentle touch of the pencil. As paper achieved its final abundant form, its quiet utility was defined not just by its composition, but by the subtle tactile quality of its surface, its soft texture. This surface was not uniform across all papers. It was carefully engineered, featuring distinct characteristics like laid lines or smooth finishes, each inviting a slightly different rhythm of writing or drawing. Imagine the early papermakers in the mill lifting the sieve from the pulp vat. The screen itself was not a single flat mesh, but was often woven with fine wires running in two distinct directions. The chain lines were strong, thicker wires running vertically, and the laid lines were the finer, more numerous wires running horizontally perpendicular to the chain lines. When the wet paper sheet was formed on this sieve, the fibers settled more densely over the wires and slightly thinner in the spaces between them. Once dried, this subtle variation in density left a faint, almost invisible grid pattern pressed into the paper itself. These laid lines were a characteristic of early handmade paper. To the touch, this pattern created a subtle, reassuring texture. When a pen or a pencil point moved across the laid paper, it encountered a gentle, rhythmic resistance. This texture guided the gentle footsteps of the writing instrument, providing a slight, hypnotic friction that encouraged a slow, steady pace. The laid lines acted as built-in, faint guidelines for the eye, ensuring that the script remained orderly and calm across the page. However, not all paper was meant for this textured feel. As paper technology advanced, papermakers sought to create surfaces of perfect, smooth finishes. This was often achieved through a process called calendaring. After drying, the paper sheets would be gently pressed between smooth, heavy rollers or plates. This slow, immense pressure removed the laid lines and flattened the fibers, resulting in a surface that was wonderfully uniform, slick, and ready for the most delicate drawing or the sharpest copperplate engraving. This smooth, finished paper was a triumph of quiet engineering. It provided the perfect canvas for the emerging graphite pencil, allowing the soft carbon point to glide with minimal friction. This ease of movement encouraged rapid sketching and fluid, continuous line work without the distraction of a rough surface. The smooth finish made the act of marking feel effortless, transforming the creation process into a low-drama flow. The subtle choice of texture, the rustic rhythmic feel of laid lines, or the cool, uninterrupted glide of a smooth finish, was a quiet decision made by the papermaker. Yet it profoundly shaped the user's experience. It was a choice between a surface that encouraged measured stillness, laid, and one that encouraged fluid grace, smooth. The paper in its final textured or smooth form became the patient receptive partner to the pencil. It was the vast, pale surface, ready to absorb the soft echo of thought, whether those thoughts were drawn with the faint texture of ancient dust, or with the smooth elegance of a finished work. The texture itself was an invitation to hold the pencil lightly and breathe slowly, engaging in a continuous, calm dialogue with the page. The simple tool of the pencil now moved toward its ultimate form through ingenuity and calm refinement. The most significant evolution for the marking corps came not from a new discovery, but from a necessity born of distant disruption, leading to Conté's calm mixing in revolutionary France. In the late 18th century, the source of pure, soft English graphite from Borrowdale became inaccessible due to circumstances that caused trade routes to become uncertain. This sudden scarcity threatened the quiet flow of information, forcing the continent to search for a predictable alternative. The challenge was to create a reliable writing tool without relying on the rare, pure mineral sticks. The solution came from a dedicated inventor named Nicolas Jacques Conté. His approach was not one of frantic searching, but of patient, methodical experimentation. He realized that the preciousness of graphite was tied to its purity. The answer lay in extending the material by blending it with something common and predictable. Imagine Conté in his quiet, dimly lit workshop surrounded by powders and small crucibles. He began grinding low-quality, less pure graphite into a fine, dark powder, an ancient dust of carbon. He then mixed this powder with soft, refined clay, adding water to create a smooth, dark paste. The true genius of Conté's method lay in the controlled firing of this mixture. The dark paste was pressed into long, thin strips, dried, and then baked in a kiln at high temperatures. The baking process hardened the clay, fusing it with the graphite powder, creating a core that was strong, uniform, and remarkably consistent. This method was a profound victory for predictability. By varying the ratio of clay to graphite, Conté found he could precisely control the hardness of the resulting core. More clay meant a harder core and a lighter, finer line. More graphite meant a softer core and a darker, bolder line. This calm mixing created a standardized system of grades, the H's hardness and B's blackness, which established a universal silent language for artists and engineers. The structural change in the pencil was thus a peaceful one, driven by scientific rigor and quiet persistence. It made the pencil independent of any single rare mine, transforming it from a fragile regional luxury into an abundant, reliable global tool. The rhythm of the production shifted from the unpredictable output of the mine to the steady, organized pace of the kiln. This refinement elevated the pencil's status. It was now a tool of precise intention. An architect could choose a firm light 4H for drawing foundational gentle lines that would fade beneath the ink, while an artist could select a soft dark 6B for shading that blended like mist. The pencil became adaptable, offering a spectrum of subtle tones and textures on the soft surface of the paper. Conté's invention created an eternal lullaby of consistency for the user. No matter where the pencil was made, the user could trust the quiet promise of its grade. The dark, soft carbon, once wrapped crudely in rope, was now perfectly contained within the wood, ready to glide across the paper with a predictable flow, a triumph of organization over scarcity. As the pencil achieved its standardized, reliable form, it required a partner not just for creation, but for correction. The story of the pencil is incomplete without the history of the eraser, a quiet, gentle tool that allows the mind to release its mistakes and return to a state of calm, unblemished readiness. In the earliest days of graphite correction was a clumsy, often disruptive act. Users attempting to remove the soft, dark trace of the lead had to resort to crude methods, often involving crumbs of soft, damp bread. Imagine the scholar pausing his work under the lantern glow, delicately dabbing the page with stale bread, hoping to lift the carbon without tearing the delicate paper fibers. This was an imprecise and low-drama operation, but it was tedious, interrupting the slow flow of thought. The true breakthrough came with the quiet discovery of a natural substance from the tropics, rubber. This elastic, malleable material derived from the sap of certain trees possessed a unique and wonderful property. When rubbed gently across a graphite mark, it lifted and absorbed the carbon particles, cleanly leaving the paper surface mostly untouched. The name rubber itself reflects this utility given by the English scientist Joseph Priestley in the 1770s, who observed that the material could rub out the mark of the pencil. This simple observation led to the creation of the first true eraser. The use of the eraser was a profound psychological gift. It transformed the act of writing and drawing from a process requiring immediate, fearful perfection into one of safe, gentle experimentation. No longer was every line a permanent commitment. The eraser allowed the hand and the mind to move with fluid grace. Knowing the tentative lines, the misty recollections of initial ideas could be softly dissolved. Imagine the feeling of the soft, yielding block of rubber against the paper. The movement is slow, circular, and rhythmic, a gentle therapeutic friction that lifts the error without creating tension. The subtle sound of the eraser, rubbing the surface, is a soft whisper of acceptance. A quiet declaration that mistakes are merely part of the creative process and can be easily undone. The development of the eraser continued with refinements. Early natural rubber erasers were susceptible to drying out and crumbling. But later innovations, particularly the process of vulcanization discovered by Charles Goodyear, created a rubber that was stable, durable, and consistent. This stabilization meant the eraser was always ready, a reliable companion to the pencil. The eraser is the pencil's perfect counterpoint. The pencil offers the dark mark of certainty. The eraser offers the white space of possibility. The pencil records. The eraser gently releases. This duality ensures that the user can maintain a state of organized calm throughout the creative process, focusing on the future of the page rather than the errors of the past. The invention of the eraser cemented the pencil's role as the ultimate tool for preliminary thought and design. It is the quiet guardian of the unblemished surface, always ready to restore the soft texture of the page and invite the next steady line. With the core of the pencil perfected by Conte's calm. Mixing the next great transformation involved scaling the ability to produce the simple tool in vast, uniform quantities. This shift was orchestrated through American mass production, utilizing the powerful yet controlled force of steam power to establish a steady, organized pace for creation. Imagine the early American pencil factories in the 19th century, particularly in places like Concord, Massachusetts. These were quiet centers of mechanized efficiency, replacing the slow individual work of the artisan with a rhythmic, continuous process. The goal was to ensure that every citizen, from the smallest schoolchild to the busiest engineer, had easy access to this fundamental tool of thought. The key to this transformation was mechanization. Steam engines and later electrical power drove specialized machines designed for precision. Planks of soft aromatic cedar wood were fed into grooving machines that cut the parallel channels for the graphite cores with uncanny accuracy. This automated grooving was performed at a steady, non-stressful speed, ensuring that every plank was perfectly prepared. The Conte method of mixing graphite and clay was also mechanized. Large vats of the dark paste were extruded through fine dies to create the long, thin cores, which were then baked in vast, controlled kilns. The uniformity of the core was essential. The machine could not tolerate the unpredictable variations of the old mine sticks. The process itself was a testament to organized predictability, a smooth, continuous flow from powder to point. Once the cores were baked, the assembly machines took over. The two grooved planks of wood were precisely aligned, the cores were laid in the channels, and the halves were sealed with adhesive under quiet pressure. The final step involved cutting the sealed blocks into individual pencils, and then most famously giving them their characteristic hexagonal shape. The hexagonal form was a quiet practical innovation designed for low-drama utility. The 6 flat sides prevented the pencil from rolling off a flat desk or table, a small but significant detail that removed a source of potential distraction and stress for the user. It was a design choice rooted in stillness and stability. The mass production system guaranteed consistency in quality and grade. Whether it was a soft 2B for an artist or a hard 3H for a bookkeeper, the user could trust the promise printed on the wood. The rhythmic churning of the factory machines, though constant, was not chaotic. It was a hypnotic sound of predictable production and the eternal lullaby of the industrial age, assuring the world that the supply of pencils would be limitless. This transformation made the pencil a democratic tool traveling across the entire continent and eventually the world. It was a victory for simplicity, achieved through organized complexity. The American factory took the quiet inventions of England and France and translated them into an abundance of the soft wooden tool, always ready to lay down its gentle trace on the ever-present paper. The quiet refinement of the pencil extended beyond the simple black core, leading to the creation of the color palette, a gentle expansion that offered artists and thinkers subtle shades of calm intention. This development transformed the pencil from a tool of structural line work into a tool capable of soft, contemplative color. The ability to create colored pencil cores was a direct result of Conte's earlier triumph. Since the graphite was now mixed with clay and fired, manufacturers realized they could replace the graphite black carbon with other dry pigments of various hues, blending them with the same soft clay binder. This allowed for the consistent, predictable production of colored leads, all housed in the familiar, comforting cedar casing. Imagine the quiet spectrum that emerged, the deep, grounding terracotta of the red ochre, the cool, distant sky blue, and the soft, organic sap green. These colors were not aggressive or loud. They were formulated to be used with the same gentle pressure as their gray counterpart, making them perfect for soft shading blending and detailed low-drama work. The colored pencil introduced a new level of calm organization into the artist's toolkit. Unlike paints, which required water mixing and significant cleanup, the colored pencil was instantly ready and entirely self-contained. The artist could switch from the dark trace of the gray core to a soft amber or a misty violet, with a simple, quick movement never interrupting the slow flow of creative thought. The color cores required even more meticulous formulation than the black graphite. Pigments are inherently diverse, and each one needed to be carefully balanced with the clay binder to ensure that the lead was strong enough to hold a point, yet soft enough to transfer color with minimal effort. This process was a quiet exercise in chemistry and patience, ensuring the final tool was predictable and easy to use. The color pencils were embraced by a new generation of quiet observers, particularly botanists and natural historians. These scholars needed to record the subtle shades and forms of nature with absolute accuracy, yet their work had to be portable and clean. The colored pencil allowed them to capture the gentle hues of a flower or the intricate patterns on a bird's wing with focused calm, far from the messy environment of the paint studio. The marks, often blended directly on the paper with a soft whisper of tissue or finger, achieved a subtle atmospheric quality. Furthermore, the introduction of color grades, though less standardized than the black leads, offered a level of precise intention. An artist could select a wax-based core for deep, rich color that sealed the paper, or a softer, drier core for subtle, powdery shading that blended like ancient dust. The pencil's color palette solidified its legacy as a versatile, non-threatening tool. It proved that color could be applied without chaos, that creativity could be contained, and that even the brightest hues could be rendered with a soft, contemplative touch. It invited users to approach color not as a problem of mixing, but as a direct, simple expression of calm intention on the welcoming surface of the paper. As the world's appetite for the blank page grew exponentially fueled by the abundance of the pencil and the printing press, the supply of linen rags, the traditional soft fiber for papermaking, began to strain. This quiet logistical pressure led to a final profound turning point for paper, the necessary shift to wood pulp, transforming the paper mill into a source of sustainable soft whisper. The challenge was to find a new fiber source that was as plentiful and uniform as linen, but infinitely more abundant. The answer lay in the vast, quiet forests of the world, in the wood of trees. This shift was a triumph of chemical ingenuity, focused on reproducing the gentle process of nature through organized science. Imagine the early experiments in the 19th century. Scientists realized that wood, like linen, was essentially cellulose fiber, but bound by a tough, complex substance called lignin. The secret was to separate the cellulose fibers without destroying them, a process that required patience and precise chemical baths. Two major methods emerged, both dedicated to this gentle separation. The mechanical process involved simply grinding the wood, a rougher method that retained more lignin and produced a less durable paper, often used for newspapers, a surface dedicated to the fleeting moment. The superior chemical processes, such as the soda and sulfite methods, were slower and more methodical. Logs of soft wood like spruce or pine were reduced to chips and then cooked in vast, organized digesters with gentle chemical solutions. This cooking slowly dissolved the lignin, leaving behind the clean, pale cellulose fiber ready for the beater. The modern paper mill became a huge continuous system, a technological slow river. The rhythmic pounding of the old stampers was replaced by massive continuous machines that refined the pulp, sprayed it onto vast wire meshes, pressed it, dried it, and rolled it into immense reels. The entire process was one of low-drama flow, moving the material from the raw wood to the finished sheet with predictable efficiency. This shift to wood pulp made paper truly ubiquitous and affordable, cementing its role as the quiet canvas for the modern age. It ensured that the supply of the blank page would never interrupt the soft flow of thought. The paper became thinner, paler, and more uniform, perfectly suited for the gentle trace of the mass-produced graphite pencil. While early wood pulp paper lacked the longevity of the ancient rag paper, the technology continued to improve, driven by the desire for archival permanence. The chemical processes became cleaner, removing more of the lignin, which caused the yellowing. This constant pursuit of organized purity reflected the ongoing legacy of Tsai Lun's quiet innovation. The sound of the modern paper factory, though vast, still contains the echo of the old mills, the quiet, steady hum of the continuous machine, the soft rush of water and pulp, and the deep, reassuring knowledge that the world's thought has a surface ready to receive it. The sustainable soft whisper of the wood pulp ensured that the pencil's long story would have an endless supply of clean, white pages. The simple tool of the pencil achieved its final refined form through mass production, yet one subtle design choice became its most enduring characteristic: the hexagonal comfort of its casing, a feature dedicated entirely to stillness and calm organization. Imagine holding a freshly sharpened pencil in your hand. The wood is smooth, often aromatic cedar, and its cross-section is not round, but a perfectly engineered, six-sided shape. This hexagonal form is a quiet triumph of design, demonstrating that the most profound utility often lies in the smallest, most thoughtful details. The primary purpose of the hexagonal shape was stability. A round pencil unrestrained will roll freely, often tumbling from the desk and disrupting the slow flow of thought. The 6 flat sides gently restrain the tool, preventing it from rolling away and replacing potential distraction with organized predictability. This minor detail created a low-drama environment for the user, ensuring that the tool was always exactly where it was last placed, ready for immediate use. This design for stillness was also a feat of production efficiency. In the factories of mass production, the hexagonal shape allowed the pencils to be packed tightly and efficiently for firing, storage, and transport. The flat sides fit perfectly against one another, minimizing wasted space, a quiet nod to organized logistics that mirrored the calmness it brought to the user. Beyond practicality, the hexagonal shape lends a subtle, comforting tactile quality to the pencil. The 6 edges provide a firm, steady grip for the fingers. Unlike a round pencil, which requires constant, subtle adjustment to maintain a controlled hold, the hexagonal shape naturally settles into the hand, reducing the muscular tension required for long periods of quiet contemplation. The slight angle of the flat sides guides the fingers, encouraging a relaxed, gentle pressure that is ideal for sustained writing or soft shading. The wood used for the casing, often incense cedar, added another layer to this feeling of comfort. Cedar is chosen not only for its softness and straight grain, which allows for smooth sharpening, but also for its faint, pleasant aroma. This soft whisper of fragrance is released when the wood is cut, engaging the senses gently and contributing to an atmosphere of organized rest in the workspace. The hexagonal comfort is a quiet assurance that the pencil is a tool designed to support the thinking mind. It asks the user to slow their breathing, settle their posture, and trust in the stability of the simple 6-sided form. It is a symbol of enduring simplicity, a perfectly contained vessel, holding the dark, soft carbon core ready to lay down its gentle trace on the paper. The pencil lying still and secure upon the surface of the paper is the very definition of design for stillness, a quiet invitation to find focus and peace in the act of creation. As we settle further into the legacy of the pencil and paper, we focus on an often unnoticed element of their union, the sound of the stroke. This subtle, rhythmic sound is the final expression of their partnership, creating a soft dialogue with the surface that contributes to an atmosphere of deep, focusing calm. Imagine a quiet room, perhaps lit by a gentle lantern glow. The air is still, and the only active sound is the rhythmic friction of the pencil point moving across the paper. This sound is not loud or jarring. It is a soft whisper composed of thousands of tiny repetitive events, the microscopic crystals of graphite being released from the core and gently abrading the fine fibers of the paper. The sound itself is a profound indicator of the tool's quality and the user's intent. When the lead is hard, like a 4/8, the sound is sharp, faint, and high-pitched, a thin, deliberate scratch that speaks of precision and light pressure. This sound encourages the user to slow down, holding the warm breath to ensure the fine line is perfectly controlled. Conversely, when the lead is soft like a 6B, the sound is deep, rich, and low, a smooth, continuous hush or shh that speaks of abundance and soft blending. This sound invites the user to relax their grip and move the pencil with fluid grace, allowing the carbon to flow generously onto the paper, filling the space like mist. The quality of the paper's texture also dictates this sound. Laid paper with its rhythmic, subtle ridges produces a sound that is broken into soft, organized pulses, guiding the hand's tempo. Smooth, calendared paper, meanwhile, allows the pencil to glide with an almost silent, continuous motion, supporting a faster, low-drama flow of sketching. The pencil is therefore constantly engaging in a delicate conversation with its surface. This rhythmic sound creates a focusing soundscape, a gentle, continuous backdrop that helps the mind settle. Unlike the disruptive clatter of a modern keyboard or the unpredictable scratching of a poorly maintained pen, the pencil's sound is entirely predictable and controlled by the user's hand. It is a self-regulating rhythm that acts as an eternal lullaby for the working mind, helping to anchor concentration and prevent distraction. Even the process of correction has its unique soft sound. The gentle circular friction of the eraser against the paper is a slow rhythmic swish, a sound of release and renewal that is non-judgmental and calming. It is the sound of possibility returning to the page. The legacy of the sound of the stroke is its quiet power to enforce mindfulness. It demands that the user pay attention to the physical connection between the hand, the tool, and the surface. The sound reminds us that even the simplest creative act requires a steady pace and a delicate touch. It ensures that every idea, whether written or drawn, is brought into existence with a measured soft whisper, filling the silence with the peaceful, repetitive music of creation. As our world fills with the speed and complexity of digital devices, the enduring legacy of the pencil and paper lies in their profound simplicity, the quiet comfort of non-electric tools. This quality makes them powerful instruments of calm, grounding the mind in the physical low-drama reality of touch and material. Imagine the modern desk often cluttered with screens that hum with information and connections. The pencil and paper offer a serene counterpoint. They require no batteries, no updates, no complex interfaces. They operate solely through the simple, reliable interaction of soft carbon and cellulose fiber. This non-electric simplicity is key to their calm presence. The pencil demands a physical engagement that digital tools often bypass. The act of creation is tied to the sense of touch, the warm breath on the paper, the scent of the cedar wood when sharpening, the feeling of the graphite yielding under gentle pressure. This physical connection brings the mind out of the abstract digital space and anchors it firmly in the present moment, encouraging a steady pace of thought. The act of writing or drawing with a pencil is inherently contemplative. Unlike the instant, smooth perfection of digital lines, the pencil's trace is subtly imperfect. It carries the soft texture of the paper, the slight grain of the wood, and the unique pressure of the human hand. This gentle imperfection is forgiving and human-removing the stress of achieving digital flawlessness. Furthermore, the paper provides a contained space. When a person writes on a physical page, their attention is focused on that defined, palpable surface. There are no competing notifications, no urgent alerts, and no endless scrolling to disrupt the slow flow of ideas. The paper acts as a sanctuary for thought, sheltered under the lantern glow of a quiet evening. This simplicity ensures a deep sense of organized predictability. The pencil is always ready. Its power source is the human will, and its interface is the simple point. This reliability is a profound source of psychological comfort, a certainty that no matter how complex the external world becomes, these fundamental tools of reflection will remain available and functional. The legacy of the non-electric tool is its ability to foster deep internal focus. It promotes unhurried thought, allowing ideas to develop through drafting and redrafting, using the eraser as a gentle tool of release. The pencil's soft whisper against the page is the sound of a mind working at its own organic speed, undisturbed by the external demands of digital tempo. The enduring simplicity of the pencil and paper is a final quiet reminder that the most profound and lasting acts of creation often occur with the simplest means. They are the ancient roots of communication, grounding us in the calm physical reality of our own thoughts. As we approach the gentle close of our journey, we reflect on the deeper legacy of paper, its role as a memory keeper. The paper surface, born from humble fibers and water, holds not just the fleeting thoughts of the present, but the continuous, soft echo of the past, the trace of ancient dust captured in its structure. Imagine holding a sheet of paper that has endured through centuries, perhaps a page from an old ledger or a softly shaded drawing. This paper is a physical record of time. Within its pale fibers are the remnants of its origins, the ancient dust of linen rags, the memory of the slow river water that carried the pulp, and the steady pressure of the presses that bonded it. The paper itself is a quiet geological record of its own creation. This durability makes paper the perfect custodian for human thought. Unlike fragile digital data, which relies on the constant, vigilant power of technology, paper holds its information physically and patiently. It requires only a cool, dry place to rest and will quietly wait for centuries for the lantern glow of a curious eye to illuminate its surface again. The soft texture of the page holds the memory of the gentle footsteps of the pencil. The graphite composed of black carbon is chemically stable and resists fading, ensuring that the mark made in a moment of quiet contemplation endures. You can still see the subtle indentations left by a heavy pencil stroke, a tactile reminder of the force and focus applied by a hand long gone. The paper remembers the pressure of the thought. Paper serves as a peaceful connection between generations. A handwritten note, a softly drawn sketch, or a deeply pondered formula links the present reader directly to the author's past moment of creation. The paper's surface carries not just the literal message, but the human rhythm, the pauses, the corrections made by the eraser, the gentle act of releasing, and the confidence of a final line. This palpable history removes the abstract distance of time. This legacy is one of low-drama permanence. Paper does not demand attention. It merely rests, holding its content in a predictable, accessible form. It allows the mind to engage with information at a slow, steady pace, encouraging deep reading and prolonged reflection processes that are often disrupted by the fast rhythm of digital screens. Even as wood pulp replaced rag fiber, the fundamental quality of the paper remained its profound ability to receive the mark and hold it with grace. The modern sheet, through chemical cleaning and precise engineering, is a triumph of organized purity, ensuring the surface is always ready for the next gentle trace. Paper's role as a memory keeper is the foundation of our civilization's quiet history. It is the surface that preserved our laws, our stories, and our dreams, all recorded in the soft whisper of the pencil. It is a humble, eternal testament to the idea that the most profound thoughts can be held by the simplest, palest, and most patient of materials. We arrive now at the gentlest possible conclusion to our journey, focusing on the ultimate legacy of the pencil and paper, the final quiet invitation offered by the blank page to the resting mind. Imagine the paper lying before you, white, smooth, vast, and silent. This blank page is the pure essence of possibility and non-judgment. It holds no trace of past mistakes, no clutter of previous thoughts, and no demands for immediate action. It is a space of absolute stillness, waiting patiently for the softest whisper of an idea. The page is an architectural space of peace. Its flat, continuous surface, perfected through centuries of slow, rhythmic labor in the mills, represents organized simplicity. Its whiteness is a visual lullaby, absorbing the lantern glow and reflecting a soft, diffused light that encourages the eyes to relax. This is a surface designed for low-drama contemplation. The pencil lying beside the page reinforces this invitation. It is a tool of such enduring simplicity that it eliminates all technical anxiety. It requires no complex startup, no software updates, and no fear of power loss. Its cedar casing provides a warm, comforting presence in the hand, and its graphite core is always ready to yield its dark, soft carbon with minimal effort. This partnership is a profound psychological safety net. The combination of the erasable pencil and the forgiving surface of the paper creates an environment where the mind is free to dream and explore without stress. Ideas can be tentatively laid down as misty recollections, tested, refined, and softly released if they are not yet ready. The freedom to gently release mistakes removes the pressure of perfection, allowing the creative process to become a slow, fluid flow. The blank page is the quiet opposite of modern digital chaos. It encourages the user to disengage from the frantic, fragmented pace of the outside world and settle into a deeper, more contemplative rhythm. When you hold the pencil, you are choosing to ground yourself in the physical reality of the moment, guided only by the soft whisper of the graphite against the page. The legacy of these simple tools is their ability to act as instruments of mindfulness. They remind us that the most valuable thoughts often come not in a rush, but in the measured cadence of a deliberate, handwritten stroke. They teach us that the process of capturing an idea is just as important as the idea itself, demanding patience, gentle pressure, and a respect for the unhurried movement of time. As we conclude this long journey through the history of the mark and the surface, let your mind rest upon the image of the clean white page. It is an eternal lullaby, a final invitation to quiet your internal dialogue, to let your warm breath slow, and to surrender to the deep, organized stillness that these simple tools have represented for millennia. The page is waiting, and your mind is ready for sleep. In this quiet journey tonight, we drifted through the gentle echoes of the story of the pencil and paper, from their earliest beginnings in the whisper of charcoal and the soft unfurling of fibers, to the soft traces they leave behind as instruments of lasting peace. Allow the thoughts of soft cedar gentle strokes and the vast white canvas to settle gently in your mind. There is no urgency in creation. There is only the slow, continuous flow of time. Feel the stability of the simple, non-electric tool in your imagination, guiding you toward quiet rest. If this peaceful journey brought you ease, you may leave a soft like, or whisper in the comments where you'd like to drift next. And now, let the night grow still. Let your breath slow. May sleep come softly and carry you into peaceful rest. Good night.